All right, candidates, thank you very much. And now comes the fun part of the forum. This is where audience members get to ask a question. If you have a question, please raise your hand. Someone will come to you with a microphone. If you don't wish to be taped, please indicate that at the very beginning. So the other thing about this is there's no time limits. I will ask you to ask questions like we did in radio, bright, brief, and relevant. I will exercise moderator's privilege if you go too long or you're pontificating. This is an exercise to ask a question and get an answer. So we have a question over here. If we could, yes, sir. If you'd like to start. Thank you.
Hello?
There you
go. I'd like to revisit the very first question. Our schools were embroiled in a fiscal misconduct situation that resulted in a grand jury investigation. Our city is sitting on somewhere in the neighborhood, I believe, of $675 million of debt. We're leveraged somewhere 70–75% of our debt lending. Credentials mean a lot, but they mean nothing if you don't use them. Mr. Cherry, in particular, I'd like to direct this question to you. Your explanation about the email sounds a whole lot like the dog ate my homework. If you're not competent enough to manage a single, simple calendar date, what other proof do you have to offer to us that you can make the Treasurer's office run better and more efficiently?
Mr. Carroll, I was competent enough to process $1.3 billion worth of contracts for the federal government in 1 year. I'm competent enough to manage $23 million for them on a daily basis right now. It's part of the $400 million budget. I'm competent enough to manage people bi-coastal. So I'm more than competent to do this job, more than qualified. There's no one probably in this room who has never had a misstep. I had one. I admit it. Yes, I did. But my life, my whole life of service, has been about accomplishments and making things happen, particularly in resource management, manpower, acquisition, contracting, and financing. All the things that it takes to make this office run efficiently. That's why I'm competent to do the job.
All right, any other questions? Question over here. There's a microphone to your left, sir.
Mr. Milton, I'd like to ask you what kind of audits the city treasurer participates in. What kind of knowledge is required to be effective in such an audit, and why do you think that you have that knowledge?
Well, every year we have a state income tax audit. We also have several audits. Every year we have an audit to balance the books, make sure that our money is correct. I have sat in on a couple of these audits. I can't say that I'm an expert on this because we bring outside auditors in, of course, particularly for the state income tax side. And then we have, again, another outside audit come in for our books. I think that's the extent of my answer for you on that.
Okay, question over here.
Mine's more of a comment. I was notified a week ago about this meeting tonight, and when I questioned the person I was talking to on the phone, I don't know the person's name, I asked who the candidates were. They told me it was Elizabeth Simmons and Mr. Bates Sherry, and there was a third candidate, but they didn't know who it was. And I thought that was kind of ironic because the third candidate has been working in that office for over 10 years, and they didn't know who it was. So I guess he's the other guy that he's got my support because he's been doing it for 10 years at least. And everybody else up there says that this is a well-oiled machine and it's 99% bringing in the appropriate money that they're supposed to be bringing in. And the present city treasurer also, I think, is going to back the other guy. So that's my only comment.
All right, are there any other questions? Any questions? Right here, sorry. Microphone's coming to you now. Yes, ma'am.
This is for Mr. Cherry. Good evening, Mr. Cherry. You mentioned that as city treasurer, one of your responsibilities would be to invest the taxpayers' money wisely. Can you give an example of how you would do that?
Yes, I have the good fortune to serve on the City Municipal Finance Commission and the Finance Commission. Matter of fact, I served with Mr. Bruce Lalonde when he was chair. And part of that job in the commission was to advise the treasurer on the investment of our monies. Didn't always go as well as we would like, but the treasurer decided last year or so to finally take the advice that we tried to give, 12 years ago, maybe, Bruce? And we made $450,000. Imagine if we had been doing that for the last 10, 12 years, we could have targeted that money for schools, for educational programs, for other city programs that we wanted to have. And that's what and to have that money diversified to the right portfolio. And we have some fine financial institutions right here in Portsmouth that were founded in Portsmouth that are not a big part of the financial investment picture. That's what I would do. Diversify that money, make sure a lot of that money turns over in Portsmouth, and target it. If I could get the city council to agree with it, target that for those things that we really want to do, we need to do, but we just don't have the funds to do. You know, I run another organization called the Prince Organized Virginia, and I've been on that finance committee there, that investment committee, for the last 10 years. We use a local firm called Scottsfield and Springfield. There, I was able to lead them to just put the interest on that money, to buy a fine piece of property in Kilmarnock, Virginia, that we're now using for youth programs in that area. So those are the kind of things we're going to do. And I have that expertise. I've been doing it for a while, and I would bring that to the treasurer's office and enhance it. And maybe next year we can even have even more money and target it for some of those programs that we really need to make happen here. Thank you.
Would either of you like to chime in on that same question?
I want to answer that question for you about the investments. Right now, Mr. Williams, we have an investment program right now where we invest in long-term and short-term CDs through the banks that we work with, Wells Fargo, Town Bank. We also invest overnight in the liquid governmental investment pool, which is something that's offered to treasurers throughout the state. And we, right now, are at a 5-year high in our investment income. So I just wanted to add that for you. Thank you.
Question up here. Yes, sir.
My question is, I've heard you say tonight that you've been dealing with billions of dollars of taxpayers' money, government money. What are you gonna, do you feel like you're gonna have a problem transitioning from you being given $1 billion to manage those funds to going out and collecting them?
No, sir, I don't. The numbers are the numbers. Whether you receive them, on my current job, we receive some and we pay some. I do it now. So it won't be a big transition. You know, and as a matter of fact, I'm about, at this time of year, for those who work for the federal government, Mr. Lalonde will know this, you come to a point where towards the end of the year, you have to do sweeps, where you have to take money. And it's part of this, it's a similar process. So no, it won't be a major adjustment at all. Thank you.
Question down here.
Hi, this question is for Elizabeth Simmis. Mrs. Simmis, you had spoken before about improving technology in the treasurer's office. Could you elaborate on that, and do you think that financially it's a realistic goal for our city?
I think that whether it's financially feasible goes back to working with the city government. I can't sit here and tell you what we need, but as a user, I know it could be better. And so my goal would be to see what the level is and what is needed, and then, work with the city council on purchasing something, or work with the state if there's an opportunity through the state or state purchasing to get into a different system. It shouldn't be as hard as it is this day and time to pay some of these bills. And again, Mr. Milton mentioned the sending out the personal property tax bills, in paper instead of, on a computer anymore. For those who are computer literate and choose to have it that way, it's a huge savings for the city too, to not send all that mail out. So I really think, kind of not too different than, when we made a major change some years ago when we got rid of the city sticker. You still pay the tax, but you don't have the sticker on the windshield of your car. That's the kind of change that can happen when you think on the global level. Talk to your other treasurers in other cities. See what best practices are. I think that, I've reached out to the other city treasurers already to see what some of them are doing. And what works for them and what might work better for Portsmouth. Because it just, we've got a great thing going, but there's always room for improvement. Just as the city has just gone through a major change in the in the computer system for the finances of the city, make sure we're all up to date at every level in all of the offices.
Other candidates all right, Mr. Melton, if you would.
I'd just like to say that the billing system that we have in place right now, it works pretty well. Our real estate return is 99% for the fiscal year 2016. Our return on personal property tax is at 96%. Now, we do have in the works a financial package or an electronic billing system for personal property tax, where you will be able to go in with your email address, with the password of your choosing, and be able to access your personal property bill online, and with the link be able to pay online as well. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Cherry.
I just want to say, I've talked to some of the other city treasurers and about some of the things we need to do and some suggestions. And I talked earlier about upgrading workstations, but also the point of sale system. And one of the systems that were brought to my attention is a revenue billing system, laserfish system, to help them. You can have everything online, see it online, and don't have to store it. Won't have to store it. All these things to save us money. So I've done the research on that, and some of the systems are similar to things that I work with every day now, which the cities just have to get up to speed on them. And that's going to require them just have this great ideas to want to do all this. But you got to be able to work with your colleagues, the council, to make sure that you get in CIP to make it happen. And no one has been more successful at that in the last 7 years, getting things in CIP than me.
Any more questions? Up here.
Billing system works very well, and I'd like to disagree with that. Last year, my car was booted, and I paid $475 for the boot, for a car that I owned in 2006 and 2007. I owned this car for 9 months, it was totaled, and I did not receive a bill for 8 years. My car was booted, and I had to pay $2,500 in a tax for a car that I owned for 9 months. So I really disagree with how well your billing system works, and truly the competency of people in your office.
Right. We will send them out in 2006 and 2007, the year the bill was due. We will send the first notice, then we will send the final notice. But there could have been a problem with your mailing address. You could have moved, I don't know if you stayed in city, moved out of city, same address. But again, we don't send bills out 8 years down the road. So if for whatever, we depend on the Postal Service. We sent out 68,000 bills this year, and people do not get their bills. for whatever, the Postal Service, we depend on them. And people are coming in our office now saying, well, I didn't get this bill. Well, we try and we want to get it to you, which I think the reason for the electronic billing system is pertinent at this point. Now, you only owned the car for 9 months. Did you get the bill prorated? I mean, sounds like you told me you got 2 years worth of bills, 2006 and 7, but you only owned it for 9 months during 1 year. So did you make that trip to the commissioner's office or give them a phone call?
I sure did.
And did they prorate the bill back for 9 months?
They did not. They said it was too far back.
Well,
Need a cubicle, don't tell all of them.
that's right. So, I mean, you know,
But
we,
you're going to move 8 years later. Doesn't make sense.
well, I am sorry for that. And did that get worked out?
It did not.
It did not. Well, we have those instances where we just can't get it every 100%. You know, I'm sorry for that. I do apologize. But you said something about the staff being incompetent?
I think that if I don't receive a bill for 8 years, but my car is booted 8 years later, that there are some incompetent people in that office. That is correct.
Well, that's not the incompetence on the staff's part. It could be the incompetence on the system's part. I mean, we will, like I said, we do not send bills out 8 years later. We will only send them out, we'll send out a maximum of 2 bills. If we don't get a payment, we'll send out the original bill, no payment, we'll send out the final notice. And that's all we'll send. And then we expect, hopefully, you to, ultimately the taxes are the citizens' responsibility. If you didn't get the bill, we would like to, maybe you should have come to us sooner and said, hey, man, I didn't get a bill for this car. So, again, I apologize for that.
All right, any more questions? One more question.
I want the room to know this before I ask the question, that I've always been a strong supporter of Elizabeth Simmons. She's always done well in the city council range. About 3 weeks ago, I heard a disturbing, and this is to you, Ms. Simmons, a disturbing rumor that a state senator has approached you to run until sometime in October and then to quit and pass your support on to Mr. Cherry. Is any part of that true?
Yeah, that's first I've heard of that.
All right, everyone, if you would, let's thank the candidates for being here tonight. Councilwoman Elizabeth Simmons, Mr. Tom Melton, Vice Mayor Paige Cherry. Thank you all for being here and doing an excellent job this evening. And people from Portsmouth, thank you for having me back. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Before you all leave, we have several things. We have bagel nuts. We only have 8 boxes of bagel nuts. So if you would buy them, we get some money from the bagel nuts. We also have tickets to a barbecue September the 16th, where we're going to have Soul Intent play, and we're going to have Ruck's Barbecue. Somebody said to me, why do you need money? Last year on the council races, we spent $25,000 in print material, and we spent $10,000 on Pilot Online. That's why we need money, to advertise for the candidates we support. Please stop by this table. You got Connie Hartung and you got Fred Schoenfeld. They've got squares. We'll take your money for the bagel nuts. We'll take your money for the tickets on September 16th, which are only $25 each. And we'll just take your money. So please don't leave without being generous to this table. Thank you so much for coming tonight. We really appreciate it.